Good afternoon, ratepayers. Councillor Tyson Matthews here, doing a second video for the council meeting tonight. Last month's video was actually well received, so thanks for all the positive comments and a couple of emails I got. Hopefully everyone's happy to continue doing it, give them a different insight into how council works. So tonight we've got 800-page agenda. There's a fair few attachments in it, so it's not as nasty as it sounds. Just quickly, sticking to my mantra of introducing a couple of protocols to you. We do a mayoral and CEO communications piece every month. Just lists everything that those two guys have been up to, and then a load of questions are asked from councillors just clarifying what came out of the meeting. Sometimes they're confidential meetings if they're around contracts and business opportunities, etc. But for the most part, it's a really good session of finding out some extra things that are not necessarily in the agenda. So firstly, I'm not going to do a summary of what happened in the meetings. What I'll probably do at the start of each of these videos is just have a quick discussion about some of the main issues that arose or generated online discussion or discussion through the standard. There are a couple of issues I'll touch on this week. The first one is consultant spending. I'll make this point that councillors are ratepayers as well. So I don't want to see my hard-earned money wasted. So we don't go out there looking to hire consultants. The reality is that we set the tone. If we make it very clear that we want every single dollar spent as efficiently in the community as it can be, then that tells the administration that, you know, try and do as much as you can internally and try not to outsource too much. We've decreased consultant spending by about 30%, which I think is a pretty impressive number. But let's take the swimming pool upgrade as an example. Refitting the inside of the swimming pool so that it lasts another 50 years is, as I said, a 50-year project. It's pretty unreasonable to expect us to have a staff member with the exact set of skill sets in-house to be able to do that project. We're going to need specialist advice, and reality is that we work in a pretty heavily legislated world. Council is involved in more different fields than ever before. We just can't, you couldn't have a staff member in-house to provide advice and see through projects to cover everything we do. But again, on the other hand, you know, sometimes there's too much analysis, and it's actually called analysis by paralysis by analysis, perhaps. And that's also a bad thing and can go the other way. You know, the Corella management issue, I know on the surface an easy thing is to go out there with a gun and shoot them or shoot them off. The reality is that a number of councils have had issues and tried to rectify the situation with no long-lasting effect. Council was pretty rushed in dealing with the cat management issue in the early stages and spent a reasonable amount of money on it with very little success. You know, caught 2 cats, copped a lot of backlash on Facebook from people who sort of didn't understand exactly what was actually going on. And so, you know, that's what happens if you do actions or go into areas where you don't have the appropriate information. You can actually cause yourself some serious issues. But that's not to say that, you know, there are times where money is spent on consultants that isn't necessary. Our job is to continue to make sure that consultant spend is as minimal as it has to be to execute the wide range of projects that we've got to undertake in this town. Moving to the council meeting, firstly, go and have a look, as I will say probably every time, at 231.1, financial performance report. Every single question about your rates and how they're being used is in that report, including capital projects, etc., etc. Councillors usually spend 10-15 minutes going over this. It's really important. I recommend anyone go and have a look at it. We found some savings as well, which is absolutely wonderful. Savings mean we can do more for the community. we are on track to deliver a pretty healthy surplus. I've had some people say, oh, we don't need a surplus, just make sure our rates are low. The reality is that everyone wants different things. I personally want somewhere vibrant for my kids to grow up, lots of things for them to do. That requires infrastructure, projects, Sturt Reserve to be activated. So you need money to do that. We can get some grants, that's all well and good, but the reality is that you've got to try and balance all the different needs and wants of the community. And rates, I can tell you now, is a very spirited discussion. It is not something we take lightly. As I said, we pay rates. We know that it's something that we have to be 100% sure on when we make a decision. And if anyone has got any questions about, rates in general, I'm happy to have the discussion, as long as it's done in a reasonable manner and not in a rude, derogatory manner. I'm passionate about the town. I want the town to succeed, so I'm happy to talk to other passionate people who've got views on how we could be doing things better. It's that simple. The rest of the stuff's housekeeping until you get to 233.1. If you've heard about the Bridgeport development, I'm not going to comment on it. I'll leave it to the CEO to make a statement on Tuesday. Go and have a look at that report. Pretty extensive report. Have a look. That's all I'll say. 233.2, riverfront strategy. The riverfront is happening. It's that simple. I do not want to be part of a council that talks about the river. Sure, in the next 2 years, we're not going to whack a whole bunch of infrastructure down there, but I want, and we've got it, a plan to deliver at some point in the next 10 years a amazing riverfront that matches the potential of this great town. It's that simple. Have a look at it. There are a whole range of projects in there, and I want you to tell me where you think these projects should be in regards to importance. 233.5, development assessment panel. Get to know that. It's a really important functional part of council. I think it's worth having a read. And 233.7, CAT management working party. We are working through some new legislation that's been handed down by the state government to basically get hold of issues surrounding cats and cat management. And I'm really excited. I've got 2 cats of my own, but I understand that feral cats are a massive issue. When we had the cake shop up there behind the shell, we'd probably see 20 or 30 feral cats at any one stage. So, but again, if we're going to act in that area, we want to make sure that we do it in an educated, responsible manner, particularly when you're dealing with animals. We've got a responsibility to do things humanely, make sure we have all information at hand before we execute a policy moving forward. So there's a couple of things. Question, I suppose it's with notice now. I had a gentleman ask me about truck splitting locations for B doubles. Big news for you. I know jack all about trucks, but I'm going to ask the question, and so hopefully that gets brought forward. And also, I've raised the motion about putting a footpath search facility on the council's website. So I get asked 3 or 4 times a week about certain footpaths and when they're going to be done. I think, in my wonderful world, ratepayers should be able to go to the council website, type in their footpath, and it should be able to spit out for them what side's getting done, whether or not it's happening this financial year, next financial year, 5 years, whatever. But that's going to save me hitting up the manager for infrastructure all the time for footpath information, and gives you guys a better idea about when things are going to be done. Footpaths are absolutely key in my view. We've got a lot to catch up with, and I know that everyone sees it as a measure of how much they're cared about by a town. I want us to deliver footpaths to make it easier for our kids to get out and about, to walk further distances safely. It's just a core component of council business. So, as always, contact me if you've got any issues. Everyone have a great Christmas. Next meeting, I think, sometime in January. It's been a pleasure being your elected member for the year, or one of them, and have a great Christmas. Stay safe.